And good afternoon, everyone. Wow, thank you all for committing to the entire day. I hope you have found this to be rewarding, informative, and just really an uplifting time for learning new things and about the possibilities for Indiana County and our region. So I want to thank Molly and the planning team again. This has just been a terrific lineup of speakers and topics that highlight the task force's commitment to bringing light to all these emerging issues related to clean energy and sustainable agriculture, building with sustainable materials and environmental stewardship, and what that all means for us in our wonderful county, and electrification of vehicles and outdoor recreation. All these things are so important. I can't think of a better, actually, this has just been a tremendous lineup. So thank you for all that. And thank you again to the Heinz Endowment for funding this and for providing our great meal and this wonderful space. We thank, the KCAC does a great job too. But I think we should all thank those folks for their serving and what they did for us today. So my talk today is really one of optimism for Indiana County's future, for its economy, for its workforce, and for its citizens' ability to really come along on that journey to what we hope is prosperity. Again, Indiana County used to be one of the most prosperous counties in the nation some years ago. Some of you may have parents or grandparents who were part of that generation that enjoyed that. But for the last some decades, we've been taking a lot of punches, in Western Pennsylvania and Appalachia. And so I'm going to try to work slides and talk at the same time. It could be a disaster. I just want to give you just a little bit of a reminder about the task force and where we came from.
Sorry. Yeah, I just need to share it again.
Oh, okay.
So sorry about that.
So the task force started with a bunch of, kind of a small number of groups, but very well-informed people about what they wanted our future to look like. The clean energy revolution was kind of starting at the time, and they said, "What do we want to do here?" And they assembled and got together and asked the commissioners, "Would you kind of sanction all this, if you will, and let us put together a task force that is partnered with you, not working off on the sidelines?" And the commissioners said, "Yes, we welcome that." That was 2017. A number of months went by, a task force assembled. We had everybody in the room, very much a cross section of the community. And they produced this report that you see here on your screen. And I'm really pleased that one of the things that we thought was so important that we made it one of the 5 main recommendations was that we would continue to push for broadband expansion. Not that people weren't talking about it, and as you heard, we were already kind of prepared for it, but we felt so strongly that was that important. It would be one of the 5 main recommendations. So just really pleased with that report. Then we went on to do some solar things, which you've heard a little bit about. At one point we were declared the most successful co-op in Pennsylvania. There's our largest co-op solar installation. I don't know if Laurie's still here, but that probably looks familiar to her. And another thing we did in our agricultural space was this community action plan for Indiana. And this was a technical assistance from a lot of our federal partners. And there's probably some of you in this room that worked on that too. And that was, we learned a lot about agriculture. It's our leading industry in Indiana County and in Pennsylvania. It's very important that we support our farmers. And there's so many. Pennsylvania is the only state with its own farm bill. There's a national farm bill, but Pennsylvania has its own farm bill. We really want to be supportive of farmers. It's an economic driver. Now, I do want to say, I'm not a graphics person. I'm just a wonky politician a lot of the time. So please forgive my use of all those words. But I just want to say a little bit about so the Sustainability Task Force existed. We've been going along, inching forward on some of the goals we set, having sustainability summits for 5 years, which were just awesome, all of them, even doing a couple of online ones because of COVID. Well, fast forward to 2021 when we got the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, otherwise known as the bipartisan infrastructure law. And, when that came online, there were a number of partners in economic development that started to really delve into this and make it their mission, clean water, high-speed internet, building and repairing bridges and roads. Greenhouse gas reduction was part of this bill, airport upgrades, passenger rail investments, a national network of electric vehicle chargers, talking about infrastructure resiliency and really the cutting edge technology for zero emission energy production. Also, and we heard a lot about this today, clean up of the legacy pollution, like addressing the Superfund and the brownfield sites, abandoned mine reclamation, oil and gas wellhead capping. Those kinds of things are really critical to us. And, a lot of people don't, if you didn't live in this area and grow up in this area, you don't even realize that legacy pollution that we are dealing with. I came from Center County and, I really had no idea when I moved to Indiana what people were talking about, abandoned mine reclamation. I knew a little bit, but not to the extent that it is. It really has defined us. But I'm really happy to say, these federal investments are going to address it in a way that has never been addressed before. I would like to say a little bit about Food 21. That was a kind of a neat. We met the folks from Food 21, and they're actually were kind of a conduit to the biogas methane digester project. So you never know when you meet. I met them in 2020. We talked about some sustainability things, and it turned into that project. And so I guess you never know what little thing is going to happen that might turn into a big thing. So then along comes the Inflation Reduction Act in 2022, and this is the single largest investment in climate and energy in American history. We're talking meaningfully now about the climate crisis, putting the U.S. on a pathway to really achieving some goals. And also creating jobs, creating good jobs, and kind of removing the barriers for equity and so on. This is environmental justice, talking about fence line monitoring for air quality, things like that. This is a public sector contribution designed to accelerate the market and invite businesses to do energy efficiency and make comfortable homes, businesses, institutions. This is a way to remove the barriers for the private sector so that they can do what they do and make it profitable and practical for people like us. So lots of other things in the Inflation Reduction Act, pollution reduction stuff, clean transit, and other things that not even related to environment and climate and so on. Things like drug price reform. Extending subsidies for the Affordable Care Act, really things that help the consumer. It's a breakthrough on climate policy for sure. And we won't really talk about here the misnomer that inflation reduction really is, because it's not. But anyway, it's groundbreaking for us, and they are really talking seriously about bringing these investments to rural Pennsylvania, rural areas. This has not happened before. So let me get up here to, basically we've seen hundreds of major clean energy projects already across the nation. Since it was signed into law, we know that the private sector has contributed. I think this slide's even a little bit outdated. It's more like $110 billion in new clean energy manufacturing, $70 billion in electric vehicle supply chain, and much more. They have estimated that 170,000 new jobs are happening. Families are projected to save on their electric bill, and the health insurance premiums are real. These are real things that are going to happen, and so. And the great thing is that they're asking, they're telling people local and state governments play a key role here. I think that's super important. But let me see, new opportunities. Here's an example of what's so great about this is they're talking about really getting down to the nitty gritty for homeowners. you're saving energy. This is all about energy efficiency, but in a much more practical way than it ever has been before. So let me see where I am here. Reimagine Appalachia is one of those organizations that has been working on this now for a couple of years, ever since the introduction of the bipartisan infrastructure law. And they're working across, as you see, Appalachia, including Pennsylvania. And their mission is to really help communities deal with this transitioning economy. You know, the array of challenges and opportunities that will result from the coal-fired power plant closures. So their lens through which they operate is the individuals, the communities that have been closest to the pain of transitioning economies like us, coal communities. They're the ones that should benefit the most. This is something that, that I think the federal government has missed in the past. And we've felt that, like the cities usually, not to pit cities against the countryside, but we have seen where a lot of those investments have gone that way. And now it's looking like we're gonna bring them this way. Also, the Reimagine has done a lot of work in this space of talking about, there are many coal-fired power plants, unfortunately, closing. It affects communities. So there's a big push to help communities deal with those changes. And let me just forward here. Now, where I really heard this happening was I got invited to this roundtable in Pittsburgh, actually, where the Secretary of the Department of Energy was there, and they had a lot of talk about how they're now transforming some of these old manufacturing places. They're returning them to manufacturing, and they're talking about, for instance, this Bethlehem Steel was closed, and now they're back online to produce solar panels. And they're very North America focused, especially United States. They're worker focused, they're citizen focused. And this is where I shared, and a lot of us are sharing this. Look, we have in the rural areas, not just the cities that can contribute to the clean energy space. We have this great work ethic and skill set from these generations that have worked in the mines. And we're committed to this effort too. So, federal government, don't forget we're here too. And I think there's, again, that America-centric and worker focus is real. And I'm glad to, that's happening. So another thing is the interagency working group on coal and power plant communities. And I was really fortunate enough to be invited to a work group, a summit that they had in Washington, D.C. earlier this year. And again, heard how local government is leading the way on these matters. There was a lot of frank dialogue about, hey, federal government, you need to walk the talk this time, and we need the resources now. And we need capacity. We need help with the capacity. We're out here in these rural areas, and we've all experienced the brain drain, the loss of resources, all that deindustrialization, all those hits to us. We need help with developing. Now, in Indiana County, we're very fortunate. We have a lot of expertise in our planning office and in our other economic development partners. And we can access federal funding pretty well, but it doesn't mean that we couldn't do more, and we should do more. We have I'm very optimistic about Indiana County and our opportunities. But that whole, the need for capacity, we all know it. We're all feeling that pinch. We could all use an extra hand or two on helping to develop the proposals and so on. So one of the other things, and just have this slide here to tell you that this is a whole nother element of this legislation, is the tax credits for private industry. This is a 10% tax credit, really makes an enormous difference to whether private investment gets made or not. So that was our Treasury Secretary explaining all that. And I'm going to admit to you, it's all a little murky to folks like us, but I just know that from hearing from the people in that room, it made the difference in whether they would invest or not. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the Justice 40 initiative. Now, this is this is something new too. What this is saying, as you can see there, is it's directing 40% of the federal benefits towards these communities that they're calling disadvantaged. Environmental justice grants. So, basically, they are trying to bring equity to this process. And I, interestingly enough, and this this is the tool that they use to determine to identify those communities, this climate and economic justice screening tool. So there's been a lot of thought put into how are you going to identify these folks, these disadvantaged communities. So we're talking about perhaps racially disadvantaged, a lot of folks who live in metropolitan areas where there's a lot of maybe pollution producing industries and the housing situation is what it is, but also talking about communities where you have a lot of poverty and other underserved areas. And interestingly enough, Indiana County has a few of the census tracts. If you look in that red circle, we have that shaded area. Those are actually census tracts where these communities are eligible for the Justice 40 benefits. So we're Indiana County. We are actually working on trying to access some of those grant fundings, and our planning office submitted a proposal to the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. This is very competitive funding, but it's significant funding. And if we get that, we are going to be operating in this space of really trying to serve really underserved communities with some of the energy resilience kinds of activities. So helping homeowners lower energy costs and things like that. So also, also the Just Transition Fund. This is another great organization that's really aiming to bring specificity to what kind of things we're going to do for these disadvantaged communities. And I'm really glad that go back to here that we also, there's another group in the county that submitted an application to the Coal Communities Challenge, a program of the Just Transition Fund. We haven't heard if that's going to be successful or not, but just want you to know we're there. We're working. We're getting, we have partners that are working hard to bring these dollars to Indiana County. Once we get them, I'm not sure what happens next, but once we, I say that in jest a little bit. We have a lot of all of you in this room have contributed to where this journey where we are now, and I think take that pretty seriously. So we are prepared. We have our challenges, but we also have a lot of assets in Indiana County that we can really avail ourselves of the dollars and make things happen. Also, I wanted to mention when it comes to green energy, manufacturing, workforce, there's a lot of dollars being put into workforce. And this is one grant that Catalyst Connection received, and it's for the region. So hopefully we're going to avail ourselves of some of that kind of money too. So you can see the Appalachian Regional Commission they've been around for a long time. It's an initiative to do anti-poverty kinds of activities, and it's been a slog, for Appalachian. But here's some real investment that we think are going to make some big changes for us. Now, I just want to say a little bit about the Regional Hydrogen Hub. This is a source of some controversy, but I wanted to mention it to you. I want to put it on your radar screen. Be kind of looking out. This is what's called blue hydrogen. It talks about using natural gas. There's other, you see in the last paragraph, the other kinds of hydrogen conversion. There's still, there's going to be some controversy with this, but it's another proposed kind of renewable energy type of activity, getting into that clean energy space. There's Appalachia. I just thought that was a nice, pretty picture. And anyway, let's see. Oh, wanted to also mention, it's not just the two recent federal legislation pieces, but also the American Rescue Plan Act did provide some opportunities besides the 16 million that the county received and the many millions that the municipalities received. There's also been some investments in other things, and one of those things was IUP received a $1 million grant to do some activities related to STEAM And, you can see that the notion of robotics and geospatial data is really something coming on. And we're proud of IUP for being a part of that award, that 62.7 million over the 10 or 11 counties. So there's a lot of projects going to happen with that. We're really excited that Indiana County is going to be the beneficiary of some of that money. And also the CHIPS and Science Act. Here's just another example. This is just an example of all the money that's out there. It's the dollars are incredible, and we're working hard to maximize what Indiana County can do. This is another program that NACO, National Association of Counties, is very active in. There's a lot of attention now being brought to coal communities, and at the national level, they identified about 25 areas where those are really specific areas in the nation. And the fact that southwestern Pennsylvania is one of those 25 is very, very key to accessing some of these dollars. So I'll leave you with this last slide. And basically what we're talking about with sustainability is becoming more resilient. Things are going to change. It's exciting when you can change with them and there's not too much pain. And that's the idea. Let's try to avail ourselves of all the resources we can. I thank our economic development partners. I know our Chamber of Commerce folks were here a little while ago, our Indiana County Development Corporation, the Tourist Bureau, IUP. There are a lot of folks who are working hard to make economic development happen. Doesn't happen real easily in rural areas. It's pretty peculiar sometimes actually how it has to happen, but they're working hard. We're seeing some really great, fantastic things happen. But we can do more, and I think we should do more. And we've been a leader in energy. Let's stay a leader in energy production, whatever that looks like. So I thank you all for your attention here today. I hope you got a lot out of this. I know I did. Thank you for your thoughtful comments and feedback and this atmosphere of teamwork. I love it. So again, very optimistic and happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions?